And what is going on, guys? My name is Tech, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today we'll be going over new rumors and leaks on upcoming technologies coming into the PC world. Anyway, let's get into it. As of today, from video cards, this is a little older document. This is rumors of AMD's Navi 31 GPUs. Now, as you're probably asking, wait, Brandon, isn't the AMD Navi 21 GPUs already out? Yes. Whenever there's new launches of GPUs, there's going to be even more rumors about future GPUs. And there's even rumors about Navi 41. But these are all rumors, so we don't know whether or not these are true, but take it with a grain of salt, please. And as of Navi 31, it'll be AMD's first multi-chiplet GPU. And what do you mean by multi-chiplet GPU? Well, multi-chiplet GPU is kind of like going back to Ryzen's own desktop GPUs, where they used 2 to 3 dies of CCXs to communicate to make these CPUs a lot cheaper with a lot more cores and threads. So it was kind of like when Intel was mocking AMD for gluing CPUs together. That's what it was called. And by using 2 GPU dies, you can get more cores and more threads. And this is talking about using 2 x80 CUs, compute units, which is basically getting the 5120 CUDA cores, if I'm correct, or cores, and doubling that, which equals to around 10,000, matching the RTX 3090. Now you might be saying, well, how does this sort of work, and is this going to be for RDNA 3 or CDNA? At the moment of this rumor, we don't know whether or not this is true for CDNA, which is AMD's separate compute unit, which is for servers and other things like that, like the M100 Instinct, or it's going to be for RDNA 3. RDNA 3 is solely focused on gaming, whereas CDNA 3 is compute unit and servers. But to give a more demonstration of the multi GPU dies, just like the Ryzen desktop CPUs, you have 2. Let's say these are 2 dies of a GPU, and they have to communicate with each other. They have to synchronize. They have to tell each other what's happening, all that, blah blah. And this is 5,000 cores, this is 5,000 cores. And in order for them to talk, they're 2 separate dies. So there's nothing connecting them unless traces and other communication. And what AMD used for their desktop was actually called the Infinity Fabric. And what the Infinity Fabric does is it allows these 2 GPUs, like GPU dies or CPU dies, to communicate with each other in zeros and ones. Now in coding, or in anything, binary is zeros and ones, and that is how computers see language. Basically, they don't see words, they see numbers. And usually this is the case for almost everything computer, like always some type of communication, like hexadecimal, binary, or decimal, and or there's octal as well. And by having this separate dies, it allows for more cores to be allowed onto the GPU. But however, we could see a noticeable dip in clock speeds, as the clock speed is affected by how fast these 2 GPU dies can communicate to each other. Just like with desktop 3rd gen Ryzen, or Ryzen 3000 series, they had multi-chiplet dies, but they could not reach Intel's kind of 5 GHz, 5.1 GHz, because of the latency issues, or the high latency, meaning it took a longer time for the GPU chiplets or the CPU chiplets to communicate with each other, whereas using a monolithic die, which is just one die, everything's communicating with each other in one, allowing Intel, let's say, to hit 5.3 GHz. But for multi-core workloads or multi-thread workloads, AMD definitely trumps Intel over that. But moving past how the multi-GPU chiplet work, this is for RDNA 3. Based on this, it was leaked by Kepler and Graphics Odyssey Hardware, so thank you for them on Twitter. And this 2 x x80 CU chiplet design is going to be for their top SKU model of RDNA 3 cards. And now moving on from how it works, we're actually going to be talking about some new patents that AMD has been going over. And as you see from Underfox, he's actually showed us a couple of patents for synchronizing mechanisms, so abstracts of how the coding and language and communication between the two dies might actually work, and abstractions and techniques that coding you need to have abstractions and iterations of coding and how it will work to communicate with the two dies. And as we go further down the line, we see new pipelines for ray tracing or accelerated ray tracing, which is going to be AMD's second generation of ray tracing. Currently, right now, AMD is using ray tracing without DLSS, sorry, and basically without DLSS, AMD is suffering in ray tracing, and they need to improve performance in ray tracing, raw ray tracing, without something like that. AMD right now, as I've read an article just I think a few days ago, AMD will be releasing their Super Fidelity FX, which is basically the equivalent of DLSS, but it's going to be through software and not actually hardware. So anyone that bought an RX 6800 XT, you don't have to worry about it not having the preferred hardware on it to actually have DLSS. It's going to be all with the API and Microsoft's software as well. There's something about the software, I forgot what it was called, but basically this will allow DLSS or the equivalent, which is Super Fidelity FX, to come to Radeon RDNA 2 cards, which is a big win for AMD as they have been suffering against NVIDIA in terms of ray tracing. So hopefully this is for sure coming to RDNA 3. Currently, here's what we see of Navi 31 and also NVIDIA's AD102, which is based on Lovelace. And NVIDIA will also be doing this same technique with their with their GPUs, allowing them to get to 18,000 cores, which is extremely huge. We know that RDNA 3 will be based on 5nm TSMC, so that's very nice to know. Currently there's nothing on Lovelace at the moment for NVIDIA, but we'll be seeing that in the future in 2022. Now moving on to other leaks, we have new leaks of the i9 11900K surpassing the 1900 point score on pass mark in the 1.9K score in Geekbench. And as we see, this is the i9 11900K genuine CPU from Intel 8-core 16-thread with a 5.3 maximum frequency on the socket 1200 LGA, codenamed Rocket Lake, using 1800 MHz RAM, or as you could say 3200 MHz, as it reads the speeds of half of it because it's in dual channel. And as you can see in Geekbench, it actually scored a highest of 1905 and a multi-core score of 10,994, and actually scoring the one before that a multi-core score of 11,048. And the frequencies, as you can see in the cores and threads of the CPU, were all running around a 5.2 gigahertz frequency, so that's very nice. But it would drop to around, I believe the lowest core on here would be 4.9. And in terms of performance to actual other CPUs, this is all new, just came out I think a day or two ago, or even today. This is an 8-core 16-thread processor based on Intel's 14nm node, and this is actually a step down from the 10900K, featuring 2 less cores and 4 less threads, but still maintaining an above average of 1905 single core score, beating out the Ryzen 9 5900X, which scores a 1664, which is pretty impressive from an 11th gen CPU. So I believe Intel would be taking their single-threaded crown back against AMD, but they definitely lose in the multi-threaded workload as the 5950X and the 5900X just have their way with the 11900K at the moment. If you're comparing the 11900K to the 5900X, it's going to be like the same thing as when 3rd gen Ryzen was released. multi-threaded workloads and applications and streaming and all that, you want to go with AMD. You're just going to go with the gaming, pure performance of gaming, single-threaded workloads, bursty, you want that bursty speed. The 11900K is for you. Now, is this enough to bring Intel back? It's enough to bring some users back in terms of frequency and also hitting those high clocks and single-threaded scores. All we have to do is just wait and see in the future, as these CPUs will be launching in around March, as I believe. I think it was March, as confirmed by MSI. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe. It means a lot to the channel. Anyway, keep on gaming and peace out.